saved my partner's life. This is the repayment of that debt. The next time we meet, Batman, the mask comes off.
Whatever happened to Detective Ellen Yin? If you were a fan, or maybe even a casual viewer of The Batman, the animated series, this question may have crossed your mind. Or you may just be asking, who is Ellen Yin? Ellen Yin was a character who appeared on The Batman, an animated series which originally aired from 2004 to 2008. It's been years since that series ended, but the question still pops up. This when people deign to discuss the series at all. Yin was a prominent character within the first 2 seasons of The Batman. She underwent a significant character arc, becoming a partner to a young Dark Knight, and then abruptly at the beginning of the show's 3rd season, she vanished, and she was never seen on screen again. Although she was briefly mentioned in a blink and you'll miss it kind of reference, or blink and you won't hear it, close your ears, you were listening to something else. So what happened? Where did she go? Why was she there in the first place? And why do people still wonder after all these years, what happened? There are a couple of reasons that float around out there, and some have more weight than others. So we're going to take a stab at the mystery of what happened to Detective Ellen Yin. To grasp that, we first have to cast back to the Batman series itself. The Batman was the first Batman animated series to follow the acclaimed animated series from the 90s known as Batman TAS, a series that would launch the DCAU, the DC Animated Universe, and provide some lasting characterizations and characters, some of whom would make the jump into comics and later adaptations, including the Batman. The Batman would strive to have a different look and tone from its predecessor, with an art style more reminiscent of, say, the Jackie Chan Adventures, thanks to Jeff Matsuda, who had worked on the aforementioned show, being the art director for the Batman. So the characters in this series would have a different look than the one people had become used to in the DCAU. The series would start off with a younger Bruce, a younger Batman, 26 years old in his 3rd year. Batman, year 3. The series would also find itself in the unique position of falling under the Bat embargo. The Bat embargo targeted Batman-related media. This was across the board, but ended up being very critical for The Batman. Officially implemented by Paul Levitz in 2005, but already loosely in play beforehand, in essence it was the decision to keep certain characters specific to certain media that were using them at the time. A kind of don't cross the streams protocol, but there were some provisions for some exceptions. There were 5 core rules, but they all revolved around the idea that you didn't want multiple versions of the same character running around within the same media. So you didn't want 2 Batman in 2 different movies, for example. And this would extend to the animated series, but you could have 2 Batman, one in a movie, one in a TV series, but then you would want there to be similarities for synergy. As you can imagine, despite the fact that it wasn't intended to, things could get convoluted. Now the reason behind it was the idea that people would get confused if there were multiple copies of characters running around across different media. There would be strong focus on protecting the works that were doing especially well. So for example, the Nolan films, or Teen Titans, the animated series. Teen Titans had proved successful and featured Robin, despite leaving it ambiguous in quotes, because that series director believed that kids could relate to the team better if they were archetypes and had no civilian identities. That Robin was heavily hinted at as being Dick Grayson. It was Dick, he followed his plot points, and when they cast the future he was Nightwing. But that meant that the Batman could not open with a Robin, because Robin was already in play somewhere else. So that would be part of the decision, along with trying to differentiate from Batman the animated series, why the series would start at a different point in Batman's history. The Nolan films, the first, Batman Begins, coming out in 2005, would for a time limit villain usage. So that would lead to some characters being off the table, or if there were discussions that they were potentially going to be used, they could be off the table as well. Villains like Two-Face, Mad Hatter, and Scarecrow would be avoided. And in that bid to differentiate from the pre-existing DCAU, you would have different interpretations of characters. For example, Mr. Freeze would revert back to being a more classic style villain, just stealing jewels for the heck of it, rather than the tragic backstory he'd been given in the DCAU. When it came to police, the choice was made to go with different police officers. And this also worked because, again, it was supposed to be earlier. So it was that season 1 of The Batman featured a couple of prominent cop characters, Detective Yin-Bennett and his partner, Detective Ellen Yin. Functionally, the two served different yet complementary purposes, namely having opposing views on the Batman.
Batman Returns.
Hard to tell. There was something different about him.
You know, that doesn't change things.
Yin-Bennett was a friend of Bruce Wayne and would follow a bit of a Harvey Dent-style arc in becoming a tragic villain. In this case, Clayface. And his transformation into Clayface would also play into the dynamic between him, Yin, and Batman. He was the character who was more open to working with Batman, whereas Yin was the opposite. Like Bennett, she came into the series with a firm backstory. Ellen was portrayed as very competent. She had transferred over from Metropolis PD, where she had been a top officer, to Gotham because she wanted a challenge. Now, while her look may have taken many nods from Elisa Mazza of Gargoyles, you'll recognize the dark hair, the jacket, just the whole ensemble. Also, her name, I always get roasted for how I say it, even if I say it like how other people in the series did.
Elisa Maza.
Sometimes the only way to win is not to play, but I played today and probably lost. Now, while Yin may have that gargoyle's look, her personality seems to hail largely from another source. There was a similarly named character from Frank Miller's The Dark Knight Returns named Ellen Yin. She first appeared in Batman The Dark Knight Returns #2, also known as Dark Knight Triumphant, this in 1986. She was the successor to Commissioner James Gordon, and she absolutely hated Batman and had a hard-nosed stance on vigilantes. She made her dislike for Batman and Robin quite known. Though over the course of the series, you'd be forced to see the utility of Batman and Robin, in this case, Carrie Kelly. The Batman's Ellen Yin has a similar function. She's a counterpoint to Bennett and the audience. She's someone who doesn't approve of the Batman or his methods, and she's not shy or quiet about it. She's quite assertive and aggressive about it.
Maybe Bats took him because, I don't know, the guy needed help or something.
Fair enough. We're chasing two perps. One's a criminal, the other's still a vigilante.
She disliked Batman, his methods, and was constantly trying to bring him in and uncover his identity. It created tension between her and Bennett and her and Bruce.
What happened here?
Maybe Langstrom didn't want anyone analyzing his work.
And you don't know anything about this, Wayne.
Now, while it was an understandable narrative choice, and even an interesting one that created much tension, not everybody would be on board with someone just running around dressed like a bat, trying to barge in on police territory. Regardless, it didn't make her the most likable character.
Hey, while we're waiting, we can take a peek.
Whoa, hold up. Can't say I'm not curious, Yin, but somehow it doesn't seem right.
And while understandable, when the series is about Batman and you're presented with a rather likable and younger and trying his best Batman and Bruce Wayne, and then you have the counterpoint of Ethan and him really getting along, it led to a situation where she could come across as aggressive and abrasive, grating. However, she didn't stay that way. She arced, she changed, she grew, she had character progression.
All I've seen the last few months, the last 2 nights, has challenged everything I ever believed in.
Throughout season 1, the events that unfolded led her to having a different opinion on Batman. She came to accept the need for Batman and the corruption of Gotham, and especially as she came to work more and more with him, at first inadvertently and then eventually on purpose. The tragic transformation of Bennett into Clayface even gave an opportunity to unmask Batman, which she did not take.
You defending the Batman? I never thought I'd see the day. Yin. What's become of us?
By the end of season 1, she was in a position of wanting to help Batman, and ended up agreeing to, in a way, become his partner. And so in season 2, their tentative partnership was already in the works, and it would only strengthen as the season went on.
You know we can't let them see us together.
If they do, just tell them I'm your prisoner.
Season 2 was an expansion upon that dynamic. The two worked together, Yin taking charge in the police and civilian angle, and Batman on the underbelly. And now you had new tensions, where villains would become aware of this relationship and try and take advantage of it.
So what took you?
It's been a crazy night.
They became close and developed a bond, and she became more likable to some fans as a result. And it was also something different, unique to this series.
They tell me just about every badge in Gotham's here tonight.
Makes you wonder who's protecting the city.
And it did work in the context of the Batman, as the series had shown the events that led to her change of heart. Now, while she did lose her badge at the end of season 2, she would get it back, and it seemed like all was going to continue on.
Nice work, Detective.
Thank you, Commissioner.
But then season 3 happened, and suddenly she was gone. And not just gone, like she never was. Nobody talked about it. Instead of Yin, Batman got a new partner, or in this case, sidekick. It's Batgirl, it was Batgirl. Thanks to the Bat embargo, Batgirl got introduced first. And after Teen Titans ended in 2006, Robin would be able to be added to Batman in season 4, which would be a very Dick Grayson-centric season as a result. So what happened? Well, the theories. Get your deerstalker hat on. Now bear in mind, all these could be true, none of them, some combination, but let's go over it. Number 1, shifting creative direction / loosening of the Bat embargo. As of the 3rd season, at that point the series became exclusive to what was at the time Kids WB, and there were just some shifts that happened in between the 2nd and 3rd season. For one thing, the theme song changed, and it's a change that some people never got over. If you know, you know. But also in the 3rd season, Batgirl was introduced, Yin was removed. The focus on Batman liaising with the police was pulled way back, and instead you got more of the format of Batman taking on his villains, and of becoming a mentor to Batgirl. More villains who had hadn't been seen before were introduced, but with new backstories to make them feel different. And just the overall tone shifted thanks to the incorporation of a younger sidekick rather than an adult partner. Now, some feel that Yin's departure directly coincides with Batgirl's arrival, that Batgirl fulfills the function that Yin did, and that Batgirl allowed the show to shift more into a superhero formula with Batman in a mentor role, and move it away from that kind of Gotham procedural vibe, even though both had lots of villains of the week and could have outlandish kind of feelings, but it just shifted it more towards that more familiar territory. This ties into the idea of the loosening of the Bat embargo around certain characters, or rather the rules about them, like Commissioner Gordon, who would just show up. The rules around certain core characters like Gordon were that they could be used with restrictions. You could use a character if the project they were a part of was finished, in quotes, and if you're using it across different mediums. For example, going from a live action movie to an animated TV series, then it could be accomplished by synchronizing the appearance. And they certainly did that with the Gordon of this series. You can see what they were doing. Now, some feel if that's the case, it's a loss. That Yin and Bennett forced the series into a unique direction, although you would see Bennett again. Now, Yin was mentioned one more time on the series in the season 4 episode Artifacts, which was a casting to the future episode starring Nightwing and Oracle, and in it, the Commissioner is referred to as Commissioner Yin. Yet another nod to that potential Dark Knight Returns connection. Yin was also extensively used in the tie-in comic Batman Strikes. She ended up appearing in more issues there than she did episodes in the TV series. Those tie-in comics, very solid. If you like the show, the comic is the exact same vibe. Reason number 2, the actress wanted more money. Ellen Yin was voiced by Ming-Na Wen, and for a while rumors swirled that upon contract negotiations for season 3, her demands were not met, so she walked. Where are these rumors from? The air, and just the fact that sometimes that happens with contract negotiations. Could it be true? Maybe, but it could also not be true. I was not able to find anything from the actress discussing something to that effect, but if you've heard something, you know what to do, put it down below so that we can talk about it and be like, wow, that's the reason. Number 3, scheduling conflicts. This other rumor also pertains to the actress. The idea that she was simply too busy. Fans who went back to look at her schedule for that time period, 2005-2006, found that she had several projects that came out or were on the go. So that led some to speculate that there was too much overlap, scheduling conflicts, genuine ones, and that it ended up being the Batman project that was pushed to the wayside. Again, could it be? Maybe. Now, those are the top theories for people who feel like discussing such things. People wonder about this because it's just not really brought up. Usually there are stories surrounding these things as the whys and the ins and outs. The Batman may have won 6 Emmys, and if you look it up, you can find talk of acclaim, but there isn't really much talk or chatter about it. It's not the most remembered or discussed Batman show. It was very much eclipsed by the Teen Titans, and of course lived in the shadow of Batman TAS more so than any of the following Bat series, as it was the first. Some fans feel that the removal of Yin was not a smart decision, that it made the series lose an interesting dynamic, and that she should have at least appeared a few more times. While for others, even if they may agree with the idea that she was interesting, it makes sense to them to go with more recognizable characters for both branding and marketing purposes, and just to draw people in because of character recognition. And Yin didn't exactly get the same love as Bennett. She's definitely a character who has gotten to be more appreciated as time has gone on. And while it would be nice to hear a definitive reason why she was written out, some of the assumptions people have come up with sound pretty plausible. For me, the first one makes the most sense. Just trying to align Batman as a recognizable and marketable brand, and so when it became possible to use more marketable and well-known characters, leaning in that direction. Even if some may not feel it's the most creative decision out there. What do you think? Or do you have some insider info? If you do, put it down below, because sharing is caring. I just want to talk about this because I still see it pop up on forums, time of recording, but it's just in little whispers. People tend not to talk about this series too much, as mentioned, and I would like to. Let's talk about the Batman. It had its moments. Tell me your thoughts down below. Did you watch the Batman? Which theme did you like better? Did you like Ellen Yin, or were you glad when she vanished? Why do you think she was written out? Put all your thoughts down below, and while you're down there, please do all the YouTube things like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the bell notification so that you never miss a vid. Thanks so much for taking some of your day spent discussing comics with me. I always appreciate it, and I will see you again soon. Bye-bye.